Good afternoon, and welcome to Our Paranormal. I am your host, Michael Roser, and today, folks, thank you for joining us on this early show. That's where we have a very special guest to interview with you folks today. My very good friend, Ollie, from Alien Addict. Now, if you guys are not familiar with what Alien Addict has done and does on a weekly basis, I suggest you hop over to his channel and check out some of the awesome interviews that he's put together throughout the years. I mean, his channel's been around for a little while here, and I'm going to be honest, he deserves exactly the position that he holds on the third phase panel, along with myself and everybody else. Fantastic interviewer, even more phenomenal host. And, you know, Ollie has asked me on his show so many times in the last couple months, maybe 3 months. I've been able to oblige as the schedule dictates. Most of the time I'm out in the field on location shooting something for you. And although I've been able to make some appearances on his show, it's been a while since he's been over here in the corner of Dark Hour Paranormal. And of course, if you guys remember, he was one of my first guests within the first, I think, it was 4 or 5 months of starting the channel, and it was a delight from the very beginning, and we have forged a very nice friendship. And of course, you know how close all of us are within the teams that we work with and the people that we affiliate with, and of course, Ollie is no exception. Guys, I want to bring on Ollie, and we're going to get into some subjects, mainly dealing with the paranormal. We might touch upon ufology a little bit, as this is perhaps his niche, but he's a very well-rounded character. So he has a lot to say and insight on different aspects of these fields at large, and I do hope you guys enjoy the show. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Alien Addict onto the show. How you doing, Ollie? Thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate it, man. What time is it over there in the UK that I messed up?
It's 8 o'clock. I've had to persuade my children to go to bed early by giving them sweets.
Well, it was Halloween recently.
No,
you shouldn't have had a problem finding any.
I didn't give them sweets before bed. I promised them, come on, get into bed now. Don't give your mum a hard time. In the morning, that lollipop, I'm going to give in. You can have a lollipop after breakfast. That's not normal in our household. No, it's sweets are a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's magical. Sweets are magical, but they don't get sweets a lot. But they keep the teeth for longer, is my philosophy.
Well, that's the idea. Yes, of course. Well, you know what? I've done similar things, but, that's all about being a father or a parent. I mean, you have to improvise sometimes. And, of course, as this is my fault, as I think we were supposed to go an hour later, I do apologize as I have before, but at the same time, we're going to make this an even more special show for Ollie, considering all of the preparations he had to go through in order to be here right now.
You've gone up in my estimation book because you got me out of bedtime.
Well, you know what? Maybe we can be friends then. I don't know. So, listen, Ollie, let's talk a little bit about the paranormal. Now, of course, we've had this discussion many times on your show. When you've come to my show, we've talked about ufology, as it's much of an interest between us both, of course. But the paranormal is something that we keep coming back to. Now, I understand on your show you've had quite the plethora of guests that fell right underneath this umbrella. People that are out there in the field researching, using different equipment, not only stuff that we've heard from before, but, something more innovative in the way of what might come next. What are your thoughts, without trying to make this too broad of a question here, what are your thoughts on the paranormal at large? And is this, let me refine it a little bit, the phenomenon that we understand as the paranormal, is it a question of whether it exists at this point, or is it more of a question of how do we label it and attribute where the behavior comes from?
If you'd have asked me that same question 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I'd have said, it's all about the science. There's no this, and in a way, it still is science. It's crazy science, but do I think we can put a label on it? Or what was the other? Can I put a label on it? Or
Well, the idea here is that we're seeing all of this phenomenon and we're observing it. We're even measuring it to some respect, certainly documenting it So there are people out there who say it doesn't exist. The same way that, you can walk into public and say, are UFOs real? No, UFOs aren't real. We know everything we see in the sky. I mean, it's an ignorant approach.
Those people are ignorant.
From the
I
answer.
was ignorant, 100%. But you can't. I don't think we can put a name on it. I don't think that anybody can say that they're an expert in it. But it definitely exists. And do you know something you said in the introduction that I'm probably more into the UFO field? I would say that I've turned away from the UFO field. I would say I've turned away from the alien field, even though it's in my title, Alien Addict. That was the beginning. But along the journey, you know this. You meet people, you speak to people, and the stories start to add up to a like a solution where you keep thinking this is paranormal. This is something that does go bump in the night. There is definitely something to the subject, and this subject's been around for longer than you or I. It's been longer than anybody who's alive today, and this stories go on and they go down the family. But along the line, we just look at it as legend or myth, and we just kind of say, it's just a story, isn't it? But we forget it's come from somewhere. And,
it certainly does.
Yeah, and I think way back when they made these, well, not even made these stories, but when they told these stories, unlike today, where people might have a reason for telling a story, i.e. a little bit of money, or back then, people had Patreons, when you did theatre or what have you. But for somebody telling a myth, a legend, a story, and it getting travelled down the generations, I think there's something to that. And I don't think it's anything to do with aliens or UFOs.
I'd have to agree with you in many respects, because the rebirthing of the spiritual movement, we all understand, happened in the 1800s here in America. And of course, this is something that had been experimented with and perhaps compartmentalized off to the side in many other countries that are, of course, much older than the United States is. But again, we come back to the whole idea that, indigenous people may have had connection with these energies and they knew how to use them appropriately. And then something happened wherein we forgot. I mean, it could be something as simple as this was a way of life that still persisted for, eons, if you will. And as the settlers came into America or, had invaded other countries, they started erasing some of that culture that had thousands of years behind it. So there you have this drop-off of information and knowledge being lost because of, mass genocide or, something along those lines, just erasing the culture in order to, come over with something else and then, pretty much dig that into the ground and say, this is always what's been here, usually in the case of religion, which was at that time, by and large, Christianity. So, we understand that there's this little hiccup, of course, in our timeline, if you will, wherein we could have lost this information. But what about further back? When we talk about Egypt, when we talk about Sumeria, we talk about some of these old, ancient civilizations that, they may not say outright, we have this information, but that's really due to interpretation, because some of the petroglyphs that they've left behind certainly allude to having not only this information, but being able to apply it and carry it out within their everyday lives. My question here is, what part of history did we sort of lose that, in your opinion? Do you think it had something to do with the dropping of consciousness in way of, people just being aware and connected to a higher source? Or did something else happen that allowed us to forget this, that to the point where we've come back now, we don't even recognize it anymore? We're trying to go about it some other way.
I think, and by the way, Michael, there is a slight echo coming from me. I don't know if I don't think it's my end, but I can hear my voice slightly, and there is a like a hum going on, and you break up, you keep breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's the connection, so I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, sorry about it. Thank you.
But with what you're saying there, my beliefs is along the line it's humanity that's got rid of the evidence. It's humanity that has got scared and possibly destroyed. I mean, you look at Egypt. You would have thought there would be more to what they're finding, what they're showing. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
There never seems to be a full solution to what a story that's been told on. And I always struggle and murder these words, but hieroglyphics. Did I say that right?
Hieroglyphics. Yep.
Hieroglyphics. Yes.
Yes.
But people interpret them, and they will tell you a story from them.
Mm-hmm.
But is it the narrative that are they only showing us so much? You know, they're only showing us part of a story. Is there a lot hidden to this story? You know, when you go back and you look at the crazy shows, which I was very fond of, and still to this day have a little tickle for it, Ancient Aliens, and some of the stuff that they present, I think, you know what, they may have a point there. I think within a lot of that, they're playing a guessing game. They're definitely playing the guessing game. You know, even when they look at the Nazca lines, you know, saying that there was a sawn-off mountain. That was a sawn-off mountain because it was a runway, and these little gold things that they have you seen the little like aeroplane?
Certainly.
Yes,
absolutely.
You know, they do look like aeroplanes, and they did make a model of it. But
well, everyone says, you know, okay, so we have these little miniature, you know, sculptures of airplanes, and perhaps we have petroglyphs of, you know, what appears to be, you know, people floating with some sort of old school space helmet on. If they had the technology the way that we're looking at it, and you bring up the interpretation, the narrative, which is really important in, you know, sort of interpreting some of these old world languages, where is the evidence that they had some of this? Where's a piece of shrapnel? Where's a fossilized area where, you know, a plane like this went down? And again, we have to get into the idea that perhaps some of these people were seeing into the future, or perhaps they were even playing with other timelines in a very tangible way that we simply just don't understand.
When you're saying seeing into the future, now that is something I thought about, especially when it comes to those little gold airplanes, because I can't imagine aliens coming down to Earth and making something that an airplane that looks like our airplanes, you know, because they look like, one of them especially looks like a fighter jet. And when you look at the patterns on the actual object, it's showing air movement. So I thought they were just little patterns, but it is actually showing how air travels over a wing when you look at those swirls. Now, these things have been proven to be ancient, but when you said there, is it possibly that these people were seeing into the future? You might have something there, Michael.
Well, I think that there was a lot of elements when it came to the clairvoyance of some of these ancient civilizations. It wasn't something that was looked at with a certain reverence that we give it today. It was something that was viewed as more natural. However, if you look into some of the more recent, and I don't really stress the word recent in a certain respect because, you know, we could still be going back thousands of years. You look as the time went on, and you saw that there was a high respect for some of the people that were able to connect like this. And usually within a tribe or within a society, there were certain people that were select to undertake this sort of task, whether they exhibited a natural inclination to be able to work with clairvoyancy, or, you know, had some sort of other intrinsic power that perhaps, you know, we're demonstrating today, but dealing with in a certainly a different manner. That, I think, is where things started to become a little bit more removed. At somewhere in that timeline wherein, you know, we're putting someone on a pedestal. Having a job is one thing, right? But being revered because what you do seems to be something outside of the realm of possibility for everybody else, to me, is a little bit off-putting. I do believe that we all have this ability, ESP or anything extrasensory in certain ways, and we've talked about this at length. So, you know, when you have somebody who's now viewed as separate because they have this particular ability, you lose your own power. You're literally giving it
Yeah.
away in a sense. You know what I mean? It's really
Yeah,
interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Wait, when you're saying about I think we have lost something along the way. I think there's certain people that are switched on. David, a guest on my show, I know that you're kind of switched onto this stuff too. There's a few other guests that are. I see. I revert to it. I call it The Shining. You know, like Jack Nicholson, and his kid Tommy. I call it The Shining. But there was a guest that I had hung on called David. He's blurred out, and I've had long conversations with him, and he definitely has that ability. And he calls it like a flashlight. You know, it's like he sees glimpses of things. Like strange things, and when he was younger, it scared the hell out of him. But now, not so much. I do think there's people that see that. I think even I myself have possibly seen that. Maybe I had one too many drinks, but I think no, I didn't. I was completely sober when I've had my experiences.
Even still, when it comes to drinking, yes, it does.
Play with the mind.
It totally plays with the mind. But when you're talking about full-scale apparitions or some of these other anecdotal stories that are reported, man, it's just too fantastic. I think, if anything, you were inebriated to such a point, it would be too much stimulus coming in from the outside that you would just kind of shut down, like, okay, that's enough. You know, it's not something that you're going to entertain, even in an inebriated state. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think you are. I think, if anything, I think down the line, this has been almost. It's been presented as that it's wrong to believe in this, and it's just coming back in now. The paranormal, like, I know it's always been around, but people are starting to talk about it again. And it all went towards the UFO side of it. It went towards the science side of it. And I think some of the scientists need to like step back a little bit and look back at the legends, the stories, because this came from somewhere. We've only been doing this sort of science for 100 years that we're doing now,
if that, yeah.
But we're disregarding thousands and thousands of years of people studying the subject. And I do believe that these people probably studied a lot more than our scientists of today. They may not have had the measuring capabilities. I mean, look at the Mayan calendar. That thing is amazing. I can't make head of tail of it. If you showed me that and said that's a star system, I'd be like, okay, it just looks like a pretty picture to me. But the point is, these people were doing this and they were making accurate measurements. Why would one civilization put a pyramid somewhere and then another civilization puts a pyramid like over the ocean that they can't actually get to at the time?
And there's no connection.
And people just say, it's the easiest object for them to build. It's not the easiest object for them to build at all. I think there's something in the shape of that. I've heard people talk about why it's a pyramid. I don't do enough research to tell you why it is. You probably know yourself why it is. But there's hundreds of these things all over Earth. We've got one in England. Why have we got a pyramid in England? Why have we got a pyramid in England?
Why have we got pyramids in Montauk? I mean, it doesn't seem to make any logical sense, and I do believe that there's an intentional veil that's being thrown over our eyes in the way of this information, and there's certainly something purposeful there. Now, you go back to the Masons and some of these other secret societies that have existed for, as long as anybody can remember. They purportedly had a lot of the information that they could retrieve from the sinking of Atlantis and whatever happened in Lemuria. Again, these are sort of nebulous points in history that we haven't yet really verified, but yet we have people coming forward and talking about how they recall certain aspects of this, or they'll come up with something that is reminiscent from the time period that they're talking about, but is still applicable here and now, and perhaps may even have some originality behind it in way of what we have. The problem is, we get very comfortable within one particular paradigm. And this paradigm has its own set of rules, and this is what we follow. And inadvertently, as time goes on, it becomes so solidified in our mind because we're not ever testing those boundaries. We're listening to what we're told. You can go this far, but no farther. Even if they give you a reason, well, the earth drops off at that point. It's sort of flat. Whatever their reasoning is, you get this reinforced within you time and time again, and it's going to become your reality. And then what happens from that point is that you've created this false reality, perhaps not on purpose, okay, but it's still a false reality. Because you believe it, you're now going to pass it on to your next of kin, who's going to pass it on to theirs. And it's like the game of telephone. And I think Rich has even used that as an example for certain things when it comes to the paranormal, which I love. But that being said, you all get stuck in this one perception of the world that actually isn't true. Now, perhaps there's a group of people or some sitting on the fringe that say, hey, I recognize that that's a false reality. I have an insight to a couple other things here. It's their choice to engage within that paradigm that's limited or to continue to keep it to themselves. But this is information that we all have a right to, considering there's no difference between any of us. And at the very core, if you want to take away physicality, that's exactly what it is. Is the electricity different that's running through your lights than it is in mine? It's the same electricity.
There's a massive problem in the UK with electric at the moment. They just keep putting they say there's a shortage of it, so the bill keeps going up. Yeah, it's craziness.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Are you still having to go over to the company and prepay before you use what you want? Like I think Lee was telling us, you don't do that.
No, that's I think they do that where Lee's not in England. Lee's on, I believe, the Isle of Wight. So
my mistake.
We all look the same, we all sound the same, definitely. But yeah, us gingers, me and Lee, we you can't tell us the difference. Lee's a bit bigger than I am, but I didn't. But he's not. Hopefully, he's not listening to the show. Sorry, Lee.
I don't think Lee listens to Dark Hour Paranormal unless we come on, but that's okay. He's a very busy guy, but. You don't do enough. You don't do enough, Michael. You need to do more shows. Your shows are great. You need to do more of them. I keep putting that ahead. Yeah. More live shows. Yeah. People are coming to me and saying we want more interviews, and that's something I've been promising, and I've been working towards. So yes, you guys will see this. It was cold today. It was nice out, but just certainly wasn't the day to go out on location. I think if I understand the Farmer's Almanac for the Northeast this year, I think it's going to be pretty cold. So yeah, we're going to be getting back into the interviews for sure. Now, when I was with Rich the other night, we were talking, I think this was in a personal conversation, although we might have spoken about it on the show. And speak of the devil, look who's decided to join us. Hey, what's going on, Rich?
Guys. Hey. Forget about it.
Yeah, he didn't even get ID'd at the door. That's how well-known Rich is around these parts.
Hey, I don't look 21 anymore.
Nah, you look 22. You still look good, though.
25, yeah. So what are we talking about?
We were just getting into this. I wanted to bring up the topic of something I had mentioned to you the other night when I said, I think maybe I've found a new way to investigate the paranormal, which is sort of, a branch of, I'm sure, what people have done before, but this is sort of intentional. So the whole idea of using your body as a mechanism to determine paranormal presence has really taken precedence in what I've been doing, trying to stay safe, not connect in a certain way, because I've felt that temptation when I've been on locations where I feel the energy. I'm like, all right, I really want to turn towards that and start having this conversation, make that connection. We'll get something. And yet there's still something in me that says, that's not such a great idea. And yet the body tells you there's something there. What do you guys think about that? Walking into a space, starting to feel like you've walked into a different area, if you will, that your body actually starts to physically react. Now, Rich, before you get into that, you've mentioned that you think frisson is solely from adrenaline. And I'd have to disagree because we've seen that effect happen. Yeah, frisson. What
I
say?
I don't know what that is.
When the hair stands up on your arms.
Oh, okay.
You get that reaction to music and so forth.
It is from adrenaline.
Goosebumps.
I get that here. I get that, when I hit a home run in baseball, I get that, it's a feeling of adrenaline, makes your hair go up. So I've seen this. I've done a lot of ghost hunts, before we had them all on camera and stuff, and I was even here. You'd walk anywhere. As you're walking up to the house, you're like, oh man, this is unbelievable. And your hair stands up because, you get this feeling of excitability.
Like you did last night.
Like I did last night. Yeah, that was fun. We'll talk about that, I guess, later. But yeah. Michael, did you see last night?
I did not get a chance to watch yet. I know. I was there for a few minutes, but I didn't get to watch the whole thing.
But, Ollie brings that up, and now I'm thinking of that.
Sorry.
But no. It's good. We should talk about that later. I could even play a clip if you wanted. But look, this, I believe, your body does sense things, of course. We are 80% water. And water is used as a conduit for energy, right, Michael?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
If we're 80%, I'm hearing like a lot of fuzz or something. It's weird. Oh, it's my thing. Hold on, I got it. I accidentally hit the gain. So when you walk into a place, you could be that barometer that attracts other entities or spiritual things. You know what I mean? Like you were just saying. Our body does give off, I think, this some sort of energy beacon. And maybe some people have more of this than other people. Maybe some people are more attuned to the locations or to the spiritual realm. And they can lower their vibration to get there or raise their vibration to get there. We always hear people saying lower. But yeah, I agree with it, Michael. But I also do agree when there's a TV show like Ghost Adventures or any of those shows, and they go, oh, look at this. I've done it, you've done it. I still think that it starts off like that. I don't know, but it could be either or. It could be adrenaline, and it could be, spiritually.
I won't say that I think that there is no frisson experiences that are attributed to adrenaline. I certainly believe that is a facet.
Absolutely there is.
100%. I think there's science behind that for as much as we can understand. At the same time, what I've been noticing, especially going out recently to some of these locations, is that I'm initially excited to get there, but that very quickly is grounded when I start working and getting into there. And just the curiosity of exploration is really what I'm after. And it's not that I'm necessarily taking every step conscious of how I'm feeling within the environment. There are many other factors that go into play. You're in the woods, alone, a mile or two out, nobody there, no protection. I mean, there are many things that the mind can start playing in way of trickery. Yeah. But what I've noticed, and this was actually most apparent on, I think, 3 or 4 premieres that I had done ago, where I walked into a graveyard and I talked about the Revolutionary soldiers and so forth I had seen and had broke down, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole story behind that. But when I walked into this graveyard, I wasn't expecting to feel anything. I was just going to document, take some B-roll, make a comment or two about what had happened some time ago. And there was one particular area. I had my coat on, sweatshirt underneath that, and a short sleeve shirt. I could feel it literally just like something was picking up the hairs and just pulling them right up. And it was like an energy had just washed over my body. I could feel it on my back. And there was no emotional interpretation for me. I didn't get excited about it. I was just like, whoa, wow, what is that? I feel like somebody sprayed you in the face with water. It's like, dude, what the hell? You know what I mean? It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very much like static. Very much like static. But I've also experienced these weird warm pockets, too, where the air is clearly about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than it is, 2 feet away. So that's where I'm kind of curious when it comes to, frisson. My idea is that it might be the intermeshing of electromagnetic fields. I think that there is certainly a response that comes about when you get close to a high electromagnetic field, something with a lot of intensity and power behind it. Even if it's not paranormal, I mean, people have had plenty of experiences coming into contact with static electricity and the hair stands straight up. This is a very small version of this example, but there you have a physical example of how electricity and electromagnetic frequencies could affect you in an observable way.
But can it be measured with instruments? Like if you're having that experience, I'm guessing that you're going to say, you may have the experience, but it may not be picked up on an what is it, an EMT?
EMF.
EMF detector, EMP. I know, right?
It's too many
Too many EMs or whatever. Yeah. So that I would think if there was some sort of energy there, that we should be able to pick it up with the EMF, and sometimes you don't, which is really weird, and that's confusing to me. You feel the energy, your hair stands up, but the EMF says jack. It's like, whoa, that's cool. So that I like the way you explained it, Michael, because that's different than adrenaline for sure.
Have you guys seen Jeff from Ghost Tech Paranormal? He's been on my show. I want to get you guys on with Jeff at some point. He's got a UFO team, ghost investigation team in the UK. He's got a channel, but they use. Have you seen the Kinect? The old Xbox Kinect.
Yes.
Yeah.
They use that and see like figures moving.
The
I've
3D
seen this.
images and shit.
It's insane, and I've seen Jeff bent down in a video, and there's something that it looks like a stick man of a kid.
Yeah.
That reaches out for him.
Yeah.
It is, and that intrigues me because I don't know how you can fake that, because I used to have a Kinect and I've seen the kind of technology it does. It was really shit technology for an Xbox, but I'm glad it's getting used now. But yeah, I think these ghosts, some of these ghost teams and some of the equipment they use, I definitely think you can measure I don't know if it's ghosts. I don't know what it is, but I think they are measuring something. It's something paranormal because it's not normal.
Well, by definition, right? I mean, we have a certain set of measurement for electromagnetic frequencies, and we're using this particular set. What if some of these electromagnetic frequencies fall a little bit beyond, out in the perimeters of what we usually take for measurement? So maybe it's more subtle than what our scales are capturing, but we're having the feeling of it because our bodies are more sensitive to that, perhaps, or maybe it's an influx, a very large amount of this EMF that for some reason isn't being detected. It's very odd, and that's a good point, Rich, that sometimes you can feel it, and yet you can't catch anything on the EMF reader. It's very curious to think about. Very quickly, Gigi Abby Lynn, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I thank you very much. You're supporting the show as you have every
Abby's
time
awesome.
you're in here, just being here. Guys, I can't thank you enough. And I saw one more here. I believe it was our good friend Manny from Area 503 with a $5.03 super chat. Said 3 of my favorite people in the field in one place. Hurrah. And of course, Gigi Abby Lynn had expressed her love for all of us and what we're doing here. And I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for donating to the show.
Awesome.
Listen, I think that, by and large, this is going to be something we'll be talking about for years to come, as you more or less would probably agree. Let's dive into the other side of it. And again, we're going to have to sit in the world of conjecture here, but this is all in way of intelligent research. Yes, go ahead.
Just before you do, can I just mention something? When you were talking about the goose pimples, so I don't know if I've told you this, Rich, but when we lived in our old house when I was a kid,
The haunted one?
no, that's the house now that my mum and dad.
Okay, yeah.
And Jeff, my mum's agreed for Jeff to do a ghost hunt in that house.
Really?
You've seen my mum's house, haven't you, Rich?
Yeah,
the old
it's
Victorian
so
house.
cool,
Yeah,
man.
they're gonna do a ghost hunt in that house, and hopefully, that would be pretty cool.
When?
I don't. It's probably gonna have to be next year now because they've
Okay.
got a big schedule.
Okay.
But
Wow.
in the old house that we lived in, we had an Irish wolfhound cross between a Labrador. Okay, but it looked like a shaggy Labrador. It was the size of a Labrador, and my dad. I don't know about this because I've only heard this story. I've heard a lot of stories from my dad, as you know. But my dad sat on the sofa, and the dog comes and sits next to him, and he's stroking the dog while having a beer and watching TV. The next minute, he hears my mum say, "Brandy, get out," because he was called Brandy, because that was my dad's favourite drink, brandy. And that was from upstairs. Now, we only had one dog, so my dad's still feeling the dog, and he looks down, and there's no dog.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's curious.
But when you talk about goose pimples, he said my mum's told me this story. She concurs that my dad. This happened. Well, maybe my dad's guessing my mother. I don't know. But my dad walked up the stairs, and my mum said all his hairs were all stood on both arms, all on end. His hair wasn't up, but all his hairs were up on end. And my mum got the dog out of the bathroom because she'd just mopped the floor. So she got the dog out of the bathroom. And we constantly saw, I never did, but my mum saw a ghost dog in that house. My dad saw a ghost dog in that house. I saw some strange things that I remember as a kid. I could have been dreaming, but they both saw this ghost dog a few times, but my dad actually touched it and all his hairs were on the edge. And I hope my dad doesn't lie to me. You know,
Oh, right, yeah.
Especially about this.
Hey, he told me Santa Claus wasn't real at an early age.
So he's honest.
Yeah.
You know, I had
put
a
stock
dream.
into it.
Yeah, I had a dream when I first got into the field here in 2004, and I moved in my wife's house, and I woke up right after 3:00, and I saw a head of a woman above the clock. It's not the first time it's happened, and you know, when I wanted to reach out and touch it, and then it turned into like a Medusa head, and it went like that. But when it came at me, my hand was still there, and it felt like pins and needles, like my hand fell asleep. And
Wow.
I started screaming, and tears came out of my eyes. I've told the story before, but as my hand was out there, I was about to go reach for it. The head went like that, and it scared the hell out of me. I go, ah! And I felt all the emotions of this woman, and everything was like she was an abused woman by a man. She hated men. She also abused her child. So, you know, it was the cycle that never gets broken type of shit. But I remember feeling that. And my wife woke up and she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I go, "Ah, nah, 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 nah." And, you know, I'm like, God, it's all over me. I can feel it. That was an amazing experience. And that's, you know, that's why I love this field. And that's why I feel like I can say some things and get away with it, because I've experienced it too. And a lot of people, but there's many different experiences people have. Not many people would feel the same thing I feel, you know, that kind of energy, static energy that would make you feel the way I felt. I mean, there's so many different things out there. It's very hard to pin down and duplicate, which is why this field is very tough.
But Rich, that's why there's more evidence within the people
Yeah.
that the paranormal's real than the UFOs and the aliens. Yeah, you know, I'm more inclined to believe somebody's paranormal story than somebody's alien story, you know?
Me too. And when I first got in this field, you know, I didn't experience much. But I guess when you're, like Michael was just saying, like a tuning fork, a beacon for it, you know, maybe somehow I just got into the realm and never got out of it. But I think it's always been with me, and I think it's always been with certain people during their lives. And maybe that's why some people feel things more than others. But what a great experience that was. My wife and I had that ball of light come in the house that one time. Soon after, I saw the head, which was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Was this before or after you started playing with the Ouija board a bit, Rich? This was before, right?
Oh, way before.
Very good question.
Okay. Because the thought that I had was, you know, even if you're doing something like that and you're not really aware and, you know, you're doing what you're doing, it's sort of in the way of what you've done in the past, Rich. And then as time goes on, you become a little bit more sensitive. I wonder if you're able to just kind of see the bleed through of that other picture a little bit more clearly. Like you say, oh, it's always been around me, or it's always been with me. Perhaps that's always been the case, but it's your awareness that has been blocked by yourself, perhaps, in way of what you know or what you allow yourself to kind of look into. And then as you expand and, you know, come into contact with, you know, people like Ollie or myself or, you know, the brothers over at Third Phase of Moon, Dr. J, any of these guys, and we start putting these ideas together, they're going out in certain ways. And I think in the nature of energy that allows that opening to come to you, you know, opening yourself up as some sort of conduit. Great word that you used earlier, but that's it right there. You become a conduit for that sort of thing, whether you want to or not, because you're acknowledging it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. No,
I
was
think the
just gonna
dreams.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
dreams. No, I'm done.
Well, I think it's cool that you bring up dreams, because there have been many times where I would have an experience of what some might consider sleep paralysis. I'm pretty sure all of us here have had that experience at one point or another. But I've told this story, I think, very seldom, and it's a short story, but it was still to this day I cannot get it out of my head. I was in Worcester, and we lived over on Grafton Street in a 3-decker house. I lived on the top floor with my kid's mother and my children at the time, and then we had 2 tenants downstairs below us, a young girl and a young man who had just gotten married, and then the landlord lived by herself on the bottom floor. This house had always been in the family of the landlord, no problems, although it was very, very old. Long story short, I started feeling a presence, my kid's mother started feeling a presence in this house, and I was really the one with the energy or the withal to be able to try to deal with it or hold it back. So what this thing used to like to do, because I was so defiant, and I would spend hours, sitting in silence and pushing this thing away from at least the location, if not my family members. When I was so tired after these excursions into, the spiritual realm, if you will, I would try to go to sleep at night. Now, there were other things happening in my life where I couldn't get the sleep that I should. So I was going days without sleeping and yet still working, running myself down. This one particular night, I'm sleeping on an air mattress out in the living room. Okay, against my will,
Air
but nonetheless,
mattress.
This is what's happening, right?
Memories, air mattress.
You better believe it, Rich. I'm gonna write a fucking book on it. Anyway, no, not at all. So I was sleeping on this air mattress, and I remember just drifting off into that light sleep. And the moment I felt my body relax and sink down, I realized that I was underground. And I was in this cavernous passageway. I'm like, what the hell? And as soon as I realized I was there, I started feeling like something was behind me, off to my left, down this corridor, all dark. And I started saying to myself, all right, I'm going to move that way. Intuitively, I'm just like, all right, let's go down this way. Something feels bad this way. For some reason, I didn't have a headlamp on, but I was in pitch darkness, and yet I could still see, what maybe a flashlight would illuminate in front of me. It was very odd. And I kept walking down, avoiding whatever this was behind me, coming closer and closer, until I took a left-hand turn, and I looked, and in front of me was a dead end. It was just a sheer rock granite wall that went up probably 12, 14 feet, and it was this weird, sickly green color. And as I realized what I was looking at in front of me, I felt the thing come behind me. It had followed me right to where I was, and I felt super sick. I don't even know if I could say throwing up would dispel or bring any relief to how I felt in this dream. And yet at the same time, I realized that I was dreaming, and so I tried to wake up real quick, and I couldn't. This thing was literally holding me in this space, wherever it was, until it decided to let go. And that's what it felt like. Kind of like, I'm going to hold on to you until I decide to let you go. And this would happen over and over again, every other night, every other night. But I wouldn't see that green wall the same way I did. But I would be in this, what I thought was sort of an underground space, because there was no light. And I was walking through what appeared to be these cavernous, chiseled out caves. I don't know. It's very strange.
No, that is interesting. And I have a question for both of you on the back of that. Michael, I think you're about the same age as me. Rich, I think you're 10 years older or 7 years older. Oh no,
7 years younger.
10, yeah, younger. But were you aware at the age of, let's say, between 3 to 8 years old? You will have been aware at 8 years old, but let's say, okay, 3 to 5, maybe 6. Were you really aware of slow motion as a child? And the reason why I ask that is because, did any of you ever have a dream where you're trying to get away from something as a child and you move in slow motion?
Yeah.
Like you're trying to get back to your bed. You may be down the parents' stairs and you try and get back to your bed, or you may be on the ceiling trying to get back to your bed, but you're in slow motion, but you are in your space, you are in your house. I can remember that a lot as a child, and I can remember trying to get back to my bedroom, and I almost think of it now like getting back to my body, my conscious body.
Maybe.
Because I think
I think
maybe
so.
maybe children are switched on to this. Maybe children can wonder. They call it the is it astral projection that way? No, not no. Is that the wrong one? Is that the right one?
If
Where
you're
you leave your
leaving your
body?
body on the
Where you
ceiling,
leave your
yeah.
Yes, I got it right. God, I knew I'd done research. But yeah, I think children can do that. I think children have that gift more than adults. And I do remember a lot of the time trying to escape something, or something felt wrong. And I can't think of what it was right now, but I know I was trying to get back. Why would I try to get back? I always try to go back to my bedroom, back to my body as such. Well, but I wasn't aware that that was my body, because in the reality of what I thought as a child is that was me moving in slow motion. Why didn't I run out of the house? Why didn't I run into my mum and dad's why did I not run into the living room? Why did I run up the stairs to my bed to be? Why did I go to be on my own? You would have thought naturally you would go to your mum and dad that are sat in the living room downstairs, where I'm watching TV, by the way. And I think I spoke about this to Amy last night. I have a vivid memory of like being on the banister. The banister was quite high up, so I don't think I would have climbed the banister to watch TV, but I can remember watching American Werewolf in London at a very early age on the banister. Now, whether that's me that I'd snuck downstairs and I was watching it through the banister, but I remember watching it like perched on the banister of the stairway. Wow. And I can remember watching the film.
Like a gargoyle?
Wow.
Yes, like a gargoyle. Watching American Werewolf in London.
I hear you, man. I've never had that experience. That's cool.
But have you had the slow motion thing?
Oh,
Rich?
yeah. Many times. You try running, and when you run, it's like your legs won't go.
And where did you run to? Where did you run to? Did you run to your mum and dad, or did you run to the bed?
I was running away from whatever was trying to catch me, whether I was outside or, wherever I was at. I wasn't trying to go back to me. I was just running away from whatever.
And how old was it? Was this recent, or is this as a child?
Oh, it's been happening my whole life. I've always had those dreams.
It still happens.
Yeah.
That's really curious that you may have, possibly been out of your body, Ollie, while you were watching this movie and then have this recollection. I wouldn't doubt it, though, that people do have those type of experiences. And again, this goes right back in line with what Rich and I had spoken about the last show that he was on a couple shows ago. Or was it the last show? I can't remember. Where we were talking about remote viewing. We were talking about telekinesis and, how to corroborate that. If somebody is upstairs in their bedroom, you're supposed to be going to sleep.
Privately.
Oh, did we? More than we did on the show? Okay. But if you're upstairs in your room and you're sleeping and, for all intents and purposes, your parents are in the living room downstairs watching television, but, you're a young kid. You're not privy to exactly what they're watching. And if they told you the title, you might not even remember it anyway because you're not watching it. For you to sit there and say, I remember watching that at a young age, have the recollection of where you were. I mean, it's just very curious. I wonder if there are more experiences out there that people have had in the same way.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, that kids have watched things or witnessed things that they actually weren't in the same room. One, because they're sneaky little bastards, but
of course,
I think the more concerning thing there is the strange slow motion thing of returning to your body and being scared out of your wits. What is that about? Is there something a little bit more sinister to this? Is there, when we talk, because we are talking about paranormal, and it'd be nice if it was all Casper the Friendly Ghost.
I think there are two things here to consider. Okay, let's say you're out of your body in a dream, okay, and you have this experience of going in slow motion, and you realize there's another entity there. One thing that could be happening is that the entity is draining your energy so that you literally feel like you're going in slow motion. I've had the dreams before where you feel like you're going in slow motion the way you're describing, but there are many, many more dreams that I've had where I feel like whatever was threatening me, or if I was trying to get away, I just simply didn't have the energy anymore, and I might just as well turn on my back and succumb. Sometimes that's how it goes, because you literally give up. You have no more. So the other side of it is that if there isn't an entity taking and drawing energy from you, maybe just being out of your body like that really takes a toll on you. So when it's time to go back in your body, you're sort of tired, you're drained, you literally crawl back in a spiritual sense. I don't know.
Well, maybe that's why we only have REM sleep for 3 hours. Maybe because it starts approximately 3 hours. If you get normal sleep, it happens approximately around 3 hours after you fall asleep. And then it lasts for about 3 hours. But we wake up sometimes as if the dream just happened. But I was told from somebody I interviewed that was a sleep person, dream expert, whatever. And they said, no, you're not dreaming it when you wake up. You've already dreamed it. But you're waking up, 4 hours later, thinking you just had the dream. There's no sense of time when you're asleep. It's really weird.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really weird thing. Yeah, I can't believe how weird. See, now that brings us to the other thing. When we go to sleep and, they're still working on how the brain works. Are we going into past lives, and are we resetting things? Are things being rebooted when we sleep? That's why we have to sleep? I don't know. I mean, you can go insane if you don't sleep.
I think
it's funny you should say past lives. Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
No, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
It's your show. It's your show.
No.
It's everybody's show.
No,
I was
just.
He's right.
I was going to say it's funny. It's funny you should mention past lives, because I had a reoccurring dream. Back to my dreams again, but I had a reoccurring dream when I was. I would like to say when you talk about yourself being a kid and people say I was 8 years old when this happened, I was 6 years old. I don't know how anybody does that, because I don't think you have a proper memory back then to go to classify how old you exactly were. But I know I was staying at my grandma's house. So I stopped staying at my grandma's house when I was probably about 12 because it wasn't cool anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had this dream ongoing when I'd stay at her house, and I was in not her house, but a really old house. And I'm sure this dream reoccurred a lot of time. And I think I can remember one night thinking, I really want to have that dream about that house. Nothing special happened apart from every night when I had the dream. I may have had the dream many times. I don't know. It may be 4 or 5 times. I knew this house. I felt like I knew this strange house, and it was an old-looking house. Every night I would walk out, and it had like a balcony at my what I'm assuming may have been my bedroom, and I'd stand out at the balcony. And the next thing I look down, and I wake up. I look down off the balcony and wake up, and I had that reoccurring dream. I can even picture the wooden flooring. The upstairs had a wooden floor. I can picture. It was a very strange looking house, almost modern but old, if that makes sense. Like that Austin Powers type style of that retro look.
Yeah.
With the shiny wood and the big giant bowls and stuff. It was strange, but I felt like I knew the house.
So I wonder, I've always had a theory on dreams, and that's interesting you bring that up, because every time I would sleep at my aunt's house, I would have really weird dreams. Like, I don't know why, but I have this theory that when we are in our own homes or wherever we're going, that when we sleep, we're picking up energy from other people, and their brain waves are circulating all around, and maybe we're just picking up on their experiences. Like some people have dreams they're flying. Well, maybe the neighbor next door was a pilot, pun first, so, or maybe you had a dream you were in the water and you drowned. Well, maybe somebody was a scuba diver, I always wondered if we picked up on that stuff. Yeah.
So you're saying that maybe that we're picking up on other
people sleeping. And their brain waves go out. So if you have a neighbor that's a mass murderer, but you don't know about it, but you go to sleep and have a dream that you're killing somebody, maybe you're picking up on that person's dreams or, their brainwaves.
Right.
Almost like being empathic without realizing it. You're just, still that antenna. I can't say that that's not the case, Rich. The same way that I can't say that you walk into a place that reportedly has paranormal activity and that you're not on some subconscious level responsible for some of the action being there. We don't know. And I think that's a fantastic concept, bringing dreams up with that as well. I mean, here's my thought on why we sleep at all. Okay, so I understand, and it's been spoken about many times, that there was a point in our history where we didn't either sleep as much or sleep at all, or we didn't eat because we needed the sustenance. We ate for pleasure, meaning that we had energy coming from a different source. We were linked in, somehow connected, whatever the case may be. Maybe at this point in our existence, we are not strong enough to solely stay conscious and awake in the physical form. You need to go back into the spiritual realm, because that's your real rest, is going into the spiritual realm. At the same time, you brought up the idea that maybe we're doing something else, doing other work, and I would have to say that I believe on most cases, at least in way of observation, personal experience, that we're certainly off somewhere else, doing something else, helping something else, working in another dimension, whatever the case may be. And I find that very curious, but it leads me to this question that I will propose to both of you. If it is true that this is how sleep is viewed, wherein we just, again, can't stay in the physical, it'd be too much stimuli, we'd have to, take that rest. Look at another species that seems to be more advanced than us in way of not only their technology, but their own spiritual growth. Telekinesis is how they communicate. We talk about extraterrestrials, how they're able to manipulate reality or manipulate time and space very consciously and willingly. Do you think that those type of species that have gotten to that point, at least in the way that we see, need to sleep and eat the way that we do?
You would have thought not.
I would say yeah. But I think not every living thing sleeps. Right? Sharks don't sleep, do they?
I
know they
think
have to
you're
keep
right about
swimming.
that. Yeah.
But there's very few that don't sleep. So sleep is supposed to repair, cells and things like that, and whatever makes us rejuvenated. But as far as that goes, it depends on the species, man. If you're talking about aliens, we would need to know what they're like, what their physical being is like.
Just seems like such an odd thing, doesn't it? Sleep.
It is weird.
But we need to do it.
Seems
It's like a robot.
Yeah. It's like if you don't, like you said, Rich, you could go insane. There was that sleep study. I forget the name of the gentleman who was involved, but he's on record for staying awake the longest that's ever been recorded. I think it was something like 20 some odd days, 23, 24 days.
It was a lot.
Wow.
The thing that really interested me is that after he had gone through that experience and was finally allowed to go to sleep, he only slept for like 8 or 9 hours, and he woke up refreshed.
Only slept?
He only slept 8 or 9 hours after not
that's
sleeping
what we're
for.
supposed to. Oh, right. Yep. I hear what you're saying.
After 20 days.
So, 20 some odd days. I'm thinking, all right, so you'd have to probably sleep another 3 days or something like that. Wake up, have a bite to eat, go back to sleep.
Yeah.
It's not true. So when you talk about the regeneration within the body, although I will say that he was never mentally the same, so he was unstable, for the remainder of his life. He couldn't actually fully fall asleep after that, which is interesting. Did some permanent damage, of course.
He did, yeah.
But it's weird.
I guarantee if he'd have had about 10 beers and a bottle of red wine, which I've only had one glass of red wine, by the way, people, he would need 3 days sleep.
Sure, that's what everybody says. I only had 2 drinks, officer.
Yeah, and I only slept for 3 days.
But that's the whole thing. My dad went to one of those sleep clinics, and I was reading through all the paraphernalia he brought home and everything, because he had sleep apnea and and all this other stuff. And you only need 8 or 9 hours. Now they're saying you only need 6 to 8 hours. So it depends. Everybody's different. But why a third of our life we sleep away? it is I guess the way the body's built, it's our physical being. I mean, we have to sleep. It doesn't have to mean we go traveling to other dimensions and, and all that stuff. I mean, that's because of dream world we think that stuff. Mm-hmm. But what are dreams? Why do we have them? Well, the brain never shuts off. That's why. And it jumbles information together. Ollie, what?
No, I was just going to say, my granddad, apparently, my dad told me this, he only ever slept, he swore by 4 hours sleep.
That's what I used to get.
Me too.
4 hours,
4
every
hours
night.
Forever.
Mm-hmm. But that was till his dying day. He used to spend all his time in he was a photographer and a painter, and he used to spend all his time in the dark room at night, developing pictures or painting to the early hours. When my grandma would go to bed, and he would have about 4 hours sleep apparently every night.
Sounds just like us. Sounds just like us.
Lived to be 96 years old.
Wow.
On 4 hours sleep.
Well, there's that. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael. No, you.
Nope. Go ahead.
Nope.
I'll shut my camera off. That's it. That's it. Go ahead. It's your show now. Let's go.
All right. Good. I win. Well, I know it's true that like the guy who stayed awake for 3 weeks, whatever, that he went to sleep for 8 hours, whatever it was, and was rejuvenated. And I know that's true because I stay up for sometimes 2 days without getting more than an hour sleep, and here and there, falling asleep. But the thing the body does, though, which I noticed, because it automatically shuts down. Oh, that was Randy Gardner.
Randy Gardner, thank you very much, Felix. I appreciate that, brother. That's who we're speaking of, who was involved in this test. Sorry, go ahead.
I've done this a lot. You guys, whoever know me for the last couple of years, where I was talking about when I wasn't sleeping well, how I would fall asleep and not even know it. Like I'll be on the phone, texting somebody, and wake up and it's 11 hours later, and the phone is still in my hand. I must have slept sitting up. Mm-hmm. Or, sometimes I fall asleep on the keyboard and wake up with the keyboard on, imprinted on my arm or face.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird how your body will shut itself down.
You sometimes fight it as well. You might be watching a film or something, and you can feel like that fade, almost like you are shutting down. But you fight against it. And then the next minute, the credits are going up. And you went, "Oh, I tried to fight it, but it didn't work."
That happens.
Credits are going up.
But for me, I'm not even tired when I don't sleep, even for like 2 days. I'm still like I am right now, very hyperactive, whatever. I'm not hyperactive. I don't know. I'm just awake, I guess. But it'll just happen without me knowing. And, I mean, there was one time where I slept, and I slept through my job. I slept through a show. I was supposed to be on someone else's show, slept, woke up the next day. People are, "Where are you? Are you okay?" It's really weird. Sleep's weird. I wish we didn't have to do it.
It seems like a waste of time to me. So ahead.
It is.
Go ahead.
It's a waste of time.
I was just going to say, so to the astral projection thing, I interviewed a guy called Rich Northwood who spent some time at the Monroe Institute, and he was talking about, I think it was when he was training in China, because the guy he does martial arts for a living. That's what he does. He trains people up, and he was talking about they believed they had guards outside their sleeping quarters, because what they used to do back in the ancient days is they would astral project, but they believed if an assassin came in and they believe, if an assassin interrupted their sleep, it could actually kill. They may not be able to return back to their body if something happened, because they would go that far out of their body that if something happened and anybody interrupted that sleep when they were doing it to actually astral project,
Yep,
that would destroy the mind, that they couldn't actually return properly, and they would either be mental or not be the same person if that happened. So they had guards, like with swords and what have you, on the doors in ancient times when they was practicing this ancient thing that everybody in the internet now seems to think it's a new thing, astral projection, but it's been going on for centuries. But I find that quite crazy that you could potentially, if anything happens to your body, your actual soul, let's call it, can't return to the body.
I've heard of this before, and of course it's in the same history that you're mentioning here. But my understanding is that when you do astral project or when you dream, if you were to observe this on a different level, there's a thin silver cord that looks like it connects just below your navel to this light body that some people say when you actually just sleep and you're not, traveling off while you're in dream time, you're about, 5 or 6 feet above the body. You just kind of float there, and then when you wake up, you sink back right into it. That's just, again, that's sleep, but you're still outside of your body to some degree, almost like you hand the keys into the rental place. You're like, oh, you're going to doll that up for me before I take it out again tomorrow? Great, I'll go get a hotel room. I'll be back in the morning to grab it, sort of thing. But then, again, you talk about the astral projection, and yet there's still this thin silver cord that can be observed, and this is sort of your follow back home. How interrupting somebody in a meditative state, at least in my initial thoughts, would sever that cord doesn't really make sense. But we also don't understand how far out some of these people were going in way of being out of their body. Did they go into a completely different dimension where they had to actually traverse the same path that they took to get back to, their reality? We don't really know. There's certainly the idea that when somebody is asleep and they die, people have said that there's no feeling or association with the body itself as it dies. You're already out. So it sort of comes out like this. Next thing you know, you're stuck outside the body and you wonder why, but you died in your sleep. I don't know. That's a very curious concept that you bring up, Ollie. Rich, what are your thoughts on that?
When you say a silver cord, though, do you mean an actual physical, people see a physical silver cord?
No.
I would say that they see it with their mind's eye or however else you're looking into this. But, is it something I could reach up and grab and tug you around with? Probably not. You know what I mean? It's etheric, certainly. Have you heard this concept, Rich?
No, never heard that concept. It's interesting, but I would find it difficult to believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I find it concerning, that there is a possibility that whatever you come into contact with in life, like, for example, let's say William Defoe, what was his name? Was it William Defoe? No, not Defoe.
William Defoe?
No, it was from the Amityville Horrors, the Defoe family. What was the murderer's name? Was it Joe? Billy? I can't remember his name.
His name was Michael.
Was it?
I'll get it in a second. I think it was, but I'll go ahead.
Yeah, let me know if you see it there. I thought it was interesting that, he obviously went to prison right after these murders, and while he was in prison, there was a point where he started really complaining that he was being bothered at night, that he was being haunted in his jail cell, and this went on for years. He even spoke about it in some of the small interviews that he was granted a little bit later on in his life, that he's haunted day in and day out, whether he's sleeping or awake while he's in that jail cell. Now, I believe he did pass away. I think it was natural causes, but they may have executed him. I don't think so. I think it was natural causes. Either way, I wonder if some of that negative energy that haunts you and is surrounding you in the physical, does that all of a sudden attack you as soon as you get outside your body and you have no real, grounding in physicality? Do they come up and take you by the neck and pull you down somewhere? The reason I'm asking this is because there was a story that I'm sure both of you are familiar with. I don't remember the guy's name, but essentially there was a gentleman who was in a hospital having an operation. He found himself staring at his body outside and, seeing everybody else surrounding him. Realized that there was a doorway, outside of the room that he could walk out. So he walks out. He finds himself in a long hallway. At the end of the hallway, there are several people calling to him, come on, come this way, come this way. So he's like, what the hell? All right. So he starts walking down, and they're like, come on, keep coming, let's go. They're just really, jotting him up here. And it gets to a point where he's traveled so far, he feels uncomfortable. He's like, I feel like I'm being led on. Something's not right about this. And at that moment, these beings or entities turn around and attack him in the most demonic fashion. And the way that he describes it is that he's constantly torn apart, eaten, and then all of a sudden bloop, just heal again, only to be tortured and ripped apart, disemboweled, and eaten again over and over and over and over. And he said the way that he got out of this was he called out for Jesus Christ. Right, now, the significant thing is he wasn't a religious man. It was just the first thing that came to mind. And as he described it once again, this hand came down, pulled him out of this realm, and poof, off he went to wherever he was, and then he was eventually back into his body. But this is a very well-known story about life after death that kind of scares the hell out of me. I wonder what kind of things he had around him to go into that. I mean, maybe you could have a dream that's like this too. Maybe that's really what it was, more akin to a dream. I mean, I don't know. Tell me about this, Rich. Aaron Morrison, thank you so much for your $5 super chat. I know I keep trying to get to it, but we're very deep in conversation. Thank you so much. You're up, Rich.
Europe, Asia, France. Yeah, I've heard that story before. He talked about the wretched smells and the sounds of screaming and constant "help me" and screams of all that stuff. Yeah, I think it's a dream. But I don't know. I really don't. Who knows? Maybe he died in his sleep or something like that happened, or he had a glimpse of it. I don't know, man. I've had weird dreams, very not similar being eaten or anything, but so real I would tell it to you as if it really happened to me. So I don't know.
The only thing I'm going to say very quickly that gives this a little bit more reality for me is that many, many, many years ago, my great-grandmother, was my great-grandmother? No, it's my step-grandmother. She was very much into the into the spiritual stuff and had plenty of books. In fact, I have a lot in my bookcase that was given to me by her at one point. Past lives, everything. She would get really deep into this. And when it came to astral projection, there was one thing that she had mentioned, and she said that when you astral project consciously through meditation, you will go up these levels, but there's this one particular level that you have to go through. You have no choice. It's there. And this level is completely soundless, and the entities that are kind of stuck there, they're not complete. So you might see a skull, you might see half of a face, you might see someone coming towards you, with their limbs not intact. Just a very tough state of singularity and isolation, but with these deformities. And again, there's no sound. So I kind of kept this in the back of my head as I went through, and I had astral projected many times, but never really was aware, because maybe I sort of blocked this out. I don't know. But there was one particular time where I decided to go into meditation. I think I was probably 14 or 15. Again, this was common practice for me at this age. I was working with it. And I started going up, and all of a sudden I realized that, things were a little bit darker than I was normally used to. I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, your eyes are closed and everything, but in your mind's eye, it was a little darker. And right in front of me, out of this blackness, came this this face. It reminded me of the Angry Man screaming. You ever see that painting, the Angry Man?
Yes.
Or, Picasso's, this is what it looked like, and the mouth was just wide, and it was gaping. There was something very solid about this as it came to me. Now, the thing that I felt was not to give in to the fear, and just, you see it, those of you who have done psychedelics and have seen something you didn't like, what do? You just look away and you focus on something else. That's really the technique. So that's what I kind of did. I just kind of looked back up, and I just kept going up. But I never forgot seeing that. And since then, I've been able to see that particular realm 2 or 3 more times. There were times I saw people that had flesh hanging off of them and stuff. It was a very fearful sight, but I didn't feel fear while I was in this particular realm or traveling through it. It was just, sadness and melancholy and isolation, and I'm trapped and this kind of thing. So, is our consciousness kind of locking us within our reality? Maybe you and I, and it's been discussed many times before, boys, that what we're living on now is the afterlife, and we've already had a life, or we're going into the next life, but we don't really know. We don't have the context to measure that. We just, have to look around and say, this is the experience, and these are the parameters in which we have to experience it.
I sometimes think like that. But quickly going back to your guy, there's a joke here. Maybe your guy, because he was being ripped apart, and maybe he just shouted, "Jesus Christ!" And
it worked.
And he was
reactionary, right?
That's hilarious.
But I sometimes do think that maybe on the grand scale of what we believe, because you guys have seen Jim Carrey when he's speaking to the interviewer, and he says, "You're not real." You're not real. Yeah, I think like that. I sometimes do think like that. People that I meet, I think you're not real. To a massive arrogance that my father gave to me, because again, back to dad. When I was when I was a child, my dad used to. He's a very strange man. We're talking 8 years old. He used to turn to me and said, "Oliver, what if you're God?" He used to ask me that question. So I almost think now sometimes maybe there's a lot of NPCs in this world, non-playable characters that are just nothing. They're part of what has been created. I would say for me, but that would be very selfish to think that you two aren't real, and the people in the live chat aren't real. That I'm just God myself. But what if there is a certain selected team, of people that are on Earth, maybe not on Earth, maybe wherever we are. Okay, there's not as many real people as we see. There's not billions and billions and billions of people on Earth. There may be a few hundred real people. Maybe less. There might be less than 100 actual real people. The people in your life who you actually connect with. Maybe you are a demigod. I don't know, but there might be so many people in the chat that are actually real people. But some of these people in the chat may not even be real. Does that make sense? It sounds bonkers.
It's weird that you bring this up, man. No, it's one of the harder concepts that I've had difficulty really wrapping my mind around. I've heard this before from many different places, including those who had brought forth the Montauk Project and so forth, but that's not where it originated, certainly. The way that it was described to me is that, let's say you walk out in the public and you get out of your car in the parking lot to go into the grocery store, and you look around, you see a bunch of people walking to their cars and so forth. This is technically backdrop. These are illusions. They're not real people, and yet if I make a decision to go and interact with them, maybe at that point it becomes real. I think that each one of us have our own, sentience in way of the perception of what we're seeing, our world that we're creating, and yet there's sort of this collective creativity that's happening in way of a consensus saying, that's a tree, that's dirt, that's a car. So we have a collective consensus, and yet we may still have divided opinions about what kind of car that is, or what kind of tree that is, or how old that soil is on the ground. It gets very minute when you dive down into it, but man, that is a very interesting concept, and yet I can understand why you'd say, it seems a little selfish. But if every single one of us is in our own world in a sense, and yet all of our worlds are existing within a certain space, to make it very simple, we're more connected and more divided than we realize.
Have you ever observed a human being, in a restaurant or or in a park or whatever. But have you ever just looked and thought, how is this a thing? How is this habit that this person has? What they're doing now, how they're acting, how they're in a restaurant. You may overhear a conversation. You think the conversation just sounds almost like I meant to hear that conversation.
Oh, okay.
I meant to hear that conversation. I've walked into a restaurant. I've just been served by the waiter or whatever. Yeah, so when somebody serves somebody, they would serve it, and I've done that myself. But they kind of turn into a bit of a robot because it's a mundane thing that you do each and every time. Nothing wrong with being a waiter. I've done that type of job before. But what I'm saying is, you come almost programmed. But if you observe people, and I'm talking about actual people in relationships, having conversations. Maybe they're in a bad relationship. I don't know. And the conversation's just not there. But you when you listen and you watch, you can almost predict things that are going to happen. You can almost predict the way the conversation is going to go. And it seems almost godlike.
Well, in a way, I understand what you're saying, but humans are humans, and we have human qualities and traits that other humans have. So it's, when you're a human watcher, like I think you are, Ali, I know I am, and Michael probably is too. That's what makes, I think, me a very good lie detector when I watch people. It's just, we're all the same, even though we're all different. But I don't think that there's certain things that I'm supposed to hear or that was meant for me. But you can't deny the coincidences of some things that really lead you in a direction you couldn't have even imagined that helped you out or hurt you. Yeah.
If you look into the definition of coincidence, there is always something unclear about how you got to one connection or another. If you take a word like synchronicity, the very word itself is implying a very certain intrinsic connection. I mean, yes, we're going to look at these scenarios in either one shade or the other. And I think that many people err on the idea of coincidence, but those are the same people that believe that luck is real and that things just happen to you. I think at a certain point, you realize that things don't just happen to you. You actually do draw experiences to yourself, whether you wanted them or not. It's something as simple as, I'm afraid of getting robbed. So, I walk around, I have this in the back of my head, I'm afraid of getting robbed. I'm always looking, expecting something, Next thing you know, somebody comes around and whoop, give me your money. And you're in your worst nightmare. But you created that. And it's the same way we've talked about thoughts manifesting many times, both of you guys. That we know through our own experiences that it is real and it is something 100%. That is applicable. You can do it. So it goes the other way too. And this is why people said when we were going into the fourth dimension, we had to be ready, because what would happen if we weren't is that, boop, you find yourself in the fourth dimension. Oh my God. Okay, what am I doing? All of a sudden you manifest your greatest fear, guy with a gun. Oh my God, now there's a guy with a gun. Now you're going to run. Now, your reaction to your experience that you just created, next thing you know, you're dead and you're out of that realm. So most of us wouldn't last 10 minutes in the fourth dimension because we're so hooked into our fears, and that's what we immediately would create out of, not knowing where we were or what was coming next, or that we had the ability to create everything you wanted right there in front of you.
But what does it mean now that we just touched on this topic that thoughts create things? So does that mean that we are in some sort of matrix reality? Or do we have gods that can hear what we want, whether we speak it or with our minds, because we're actually just puppets? We're just little toys to them. And there's another reality that we don't know about. And they can make those things happen as if we ask. And they just align it for us, kind of like the Adjustment Bureau, if you ever saw that movie.
Yeah, Rich, you see 1111 a lot. Do you still see it?
Today was the first time I've seen it in oh my God, like the weirdest ways, yeah.
And did it have a significance? Did you see it after something happening?
Not yet.
So
usually I see it for about a week or two.
There's a video on my channel, IC33. I've seen this. Yeah. I've seen this for years. The first time that I became aware of it, it was happening every day, and it was freaking me out to the point where my granddad had passed away, and we went to the house to see my grandma. And I think it was a couple of months after the funeral, and there was the grandfather clock up on the wall, and I said to my grandma, as I walked up, and I said, "Did that stop when Granddad died?" Because it was on, I think it was on 6:33, and she said, "Oh no, it's been gone a long time because he had Alzheimer's and he couldn't. He just stopped doing it." And my grandma didn't do that stuff like that. So then I decided, I thought, I'm seeing this all the time. I'm going to go to the skeptic, which is my father, and you may have seen the picture of this that's on my channel, Rich. But I started speaking to him about the number 33. And I'm telling him, Dad, I'm seeing this number all the time. And as I'm speaking to him, I look at his top, and where, I kid you not, where this mark is, here, this, whatever this is, he had the number 33 on its own, written on his top, on his polo neck. And I went, oh my word. Dad, why is that? What's significant is that on your top? Because I thought this may be an answer. And he said, "Oh, it's just a golf thing." And he didn't even seem remotely like weirded out that he had the number 33 on his top when I'm talking about the number 33 and me seeing the number 33. That's how strange a man he is. But this has gone on and on and on to the point where my wife gives birth to one of our children at 33. I got married at 33 years old. I had a guest on which was a flat earther, well, should I say globe denier, because he corrected me on the title. I had to change the title on the video.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Go ahead.
I spoke to I still speak to him now. He's a great guy. I may get him on again with a few non-flat earthers for a bit of fun. But he said, "Do you know why you're seeing the number 33?" And I said, "No." He said, "That's the age that Jesus died." But hear me out here. So my wife is from Ecuador, and she used to be very religious. Have I told you this story, Rich? Yeah. So we're driving to a restaurant to visit some friends, and I said, "You know the interview, Serena, that I did the other night with the flat earther guy?" I said, "Yeah, I told him about the number 33," and he said the reason why I see the number 33 is because Jesus died at the age of, and I kid you not, when I said at the age of, the radio station said number 33, and my wife, she was so shocked. But it didn't end there. We pulled up to the pub that we was going to, was at junction 33. And this sort of thing happens to me on a daily basis. So, like yourself, Rich, it's stopped for a long time now. But I think there's something in the numbers. And for anybody says that it's just numbers, and when you've just, you bought that car's a really great shade of blue, and nobody, you think nobody else has got it, but once you've got the car, you see everybody in that car.
Yeah.
But when you've got something like your father wearing the number 33, when you're telling him about the number 33, when the radio station says the number 33, I think that's a sign. I either think that I'm God, or that somebody that is God is giving me something, which is taken me out of the alien, the UFO thing, because I think when there's something like that going on, I don't think it's aliens putting that into my head.
It's supposed to be something of a trigger, right? I mean, Rich asked the question, are we God? Well, let's put it this way, make it very simple.
We are our own gods.
And yet
we
not
are
separate
gods
from
in our own universe. That's why thoughts create things, because we can create it as well. But what were you going to say?
Absolutely. I mean, essentially, you've just encapsulated what I was going to say. But I mean, if it goes further, and we talk about the mythology and possibly the religious implication, really not so much, but at least in the way of a singularity, in the way of a god or something like that, we are all from the same energy. I've used the analogy of the apple slice and so forth. It's still an apple, but if that's the case, and what we call God is the omnipotent, omniscient overseer and can create at will, okay, we're still the same energy, so we can technically do it too. Right. Just a matter of how, I guess. That's our challenge. How do we get back to that state? Yeah, maybe that God had to go through it too. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I think that's something each individual has to figure out on their own. And I guess that's why Oprah called it The Secret. The law of attraction. Well, she didn't call it that. That's the name of the the book that was written. But it is interesting when you think that it's possible that you can create your own reality. But there was something I was going to say and I forgot. So I don't know. It'll come back to me.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah, it'll come back to you.
No reason to be sorry.
Rich, it looks like you've got really tiny legs.
It looks like I have real tiny legs. Oh, here. It does. That's so funny. All right, there we go.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
Jackie O, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I think that's pounds, right? Thank you so much. Maybe if it's not, thank you for the $5. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support. Dorothy Hawkins, thank you for your $5 super chat as well. Thank you so much.
Hey.
I appreciate each and every one of you being here tonight with us. Listen, we're going to close out the show, unfortunately, because we're out of time. I know, it went by quick. My God, it went by quick. I didn't even touch some of the topics.
Can we touch slightly on Rich last night with Anjali before we go?
Yes.
Anjali. Sorry, Anjali. It's Anjali. She corrected everybody.
It's Anjali?
It's Anjali. She corrected Amy on it. When Amy went, welcome to the show, Anjali, and she went, can I just say it's Anjali? And she went, oh, I'm sorry. I just thought, you know what? If somebody called me Ollie,
it's not
oil. I wouldn't really care. I just really don't give a monkeys. But I don't get that thing with names when people go, it's actually so and so. I don't give a shit. See if you pronounce my name right. I like Anjali.
I like Anjali much better.
I like Anjali.
Yeah. On your show last night, Rich, you said somebody in the chat mentioned that nobody but yourself actually called her out. I didn't call her out. I mean, I'm a very polite British man. I'm not like you Italians. But I literally tried. I tried to try and get something. But what she does is she speaks over you and she coasts this conversation in a different direction. And I found that very frustrating. Yeah. I've emailed her a month or so ago, asked her to come on the show. She's never read the email. And you know, when Twitter comes up, you get your messages and you either choose to ignore them or read them. I read all of them because I'm not a prick. But you know, I don't. She'll go on the show. She feels comfortable to go on. But going on from last night, the evidence that Ryan's got that he's going to release in December, will absolutely destroy everything that she's done. And
see, that's suspect. That's suspect in the beginning. You're only going to go on shows you feel comfortable that the platform will represent what you're shooting as a narrative. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
just like Lou Elizondo in certain respect. Thank you.
Yeah, we both said it at the same time. That's so true.
Did.
And we know that's true because of what happened, especially when he had to go on Spaced Out Radio. You know, Dave was given a list of things to talk about. And do not, divert off these questions. And when he did, wow, Lou was stumped. Yeah, last night was interesting. I don't know if you want to hear a minute or two of it, but it was just amazing.
I do.
Have you heard it yet?
I do, Rich. No, I have not.
This is from Alien Girl's show, not my show, so I'm going to pull it up.
Mm-hmm. She did a great job, by the way. It was a great show. But the frustration there is that, none of us kind of called her out, but we were trying to ask the question to try and find out more. But when you ask the uncomfortable question, she coasts it away, and it's very clever what she did.
Well, there will be echoing when we speak, when you start sharing. So, unfortunately,
I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to let you. Yep.
Rich, I know a fix. I know a fix.
Oh, yeah?
I do know a fix.
All right, we'll talk after.
Okay.
All right, this is from the point where I joined, so I'm just going to let it run.
Minutes, but hopefully, we could just chit-chat and have more fun like we're doing. Great questions, all around. And I just can't be more thankful.
I'm looking at it, see?
Anjali, what's so nice about you is you're so open and honest. And I've seen you take some hardcore questions. Yes, I've seen you take some hardcore questions, questions that you could easily say, I
went too far. Hold on, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to hear that. See you
later, Steven. All right. Good night. All of the coolest people in ufology. So thank you so much for being here.
It is a pleasure. I'm late to the party. I don't know what's been asked. I've heard a few things, but hi, Anjali. Nice to meet you. Hey, guys.
Hi, nice to
meet you. Hey, I have a question. I heard that you're not going to the cave, which is something I predicted.
Oh, that's not what I said. I said
Oh,
that
okay.
what I said was that Wayne has said that no one is allowed on the property.
Which would mean
That's
you're
what
not
I
going
said.
to the cave, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future.
Well,
So, see.
I'm sort of like the psychic of the bunch here, I guess you could say, because not only I predicted that you won't be going, and that there would be some excuse that we can't deny, but it's happening right in front of our faces, and I'm sorry to hear that. So Wayne has cancer, huh? Is that
Rich,
what
what do
happened?
you want? What do you want? What is it?
On that note, I'm gonna dip out, guys.
All right, see you later.
Call my
Thanks so much for
girlfriend.
Jeremy. Anyway, that was the big diversion. If you guys want to watch the rest of it, I mean, I could play a little more, but it is really, that's when she got defensive and Jeremy left and Alien Girl called in Britt to come save the day, and it didn't get much further, but I was like, hey man, I have nothing against you. I just want to know, certain things or whatever. But yeah, you can see, Rich, what do you want? It's like, I want to know the truth, damn it.
You needed to say, I want the truth. And
Sorry.
then
I
I would
know.
have said, he can't handle the truth.
I was hoping it would go that way. I couldn't think that quick. I mean, I literally just woke up. But, she did her thing. Jeremy, left. He didn't want to be involved with that, I guess. And Alien Girl called in Britt. And it just turned out to be, after that, like she just talked in circles, basically.
It's really unfortunate, and I'm glad you were there to put that fire out. And you know what? Oh, let me put it a different way, to put the fire underneath. The truth of the matter is, these shouldn't be questions that anybody gets defensive about. You shouldn't stray away from them, ignore them. These are very straightforward. Oh, we heard that the caves, you're not going. Well, I predicted that. Well, maybe you did. Maybe you predicted that you saw that Wayne wouldn't let him on the property. But she's not even seeming to be open to that. She feels like she's being challenged by you questioning. Listen, we're not going to swallow everything these people are saying, guys. Yeah, we'll entertain it till the cows come home, but we are not going to swallow this and say, yeah, that's completely true. I believe you 100% without any sort of evidence put in front of us. It's just not the logical thing to do. That being said, I do give credit to people like Anjali or Anjali for going out and saying what she's saying, but guess what? You're really on that limb. You're on that precipice where you're looking down and somebody can come behind you and push you if what you're talking about isn't creating the bridge or the ground that you should be standing on in the next step. And unfortunately, I think that that's the case. I mean, there was an issue I had with Uri Geller, and I shared this with you, Rich, and a couple other people, where I had asked him to simply come on the show, and next thing you know, he's sending me back emails telling me that I have a mediocre channel and that, I'm not promoting my YouTube correctly. I should be on television, the radio, in newspapers. Yeah, I mean, it's all fine and well to say. Yeah, it was a very off-putting. Yeah, it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth when it came to him. But even still, I wanted to bring him on so that I could ask him the real questions that perhaps people aren't asking about Uri Geller now. If he's somebody who could bend spoons with his mind, then this shouldn't be something that you'd be off-put. So my thought, at least in his respect, was that I didn't have enough subscribers for his liking. But then again, I also didn't tell him that it would have been repurposed on GUFON, it would have been repurposed on Third Phase of Moon, it would have been repurposed on Dr. It doesn't matter. All of us could have taken that and blown it up into, whatever attention it needed. Mm-hmm. So short-sighted on his end. But in the end, as I'm mentioning
Also
here with
selfish.
Anjali, it's very selfish of him, but, I'm sure ego plays a lot in that, and unfortunately, I think Anjali is getting caught up in ego, too, when having these conversations. It's not going to be nice and smooth and placid waters every time you set sail. You got to be in the way for that storm, because you're on a set of waters saying a handful of things that will generate storms, and it's a matter of how you ride those out if you've got the stable boat underneath you. If you're talking flimsy, you're going to sink. And some of these people know that that's what's going to happen when they talk to people like Rich, and that's why you saw, I think, in my opinion, Anjali's reaction last night with Alien Girl 111's show. So, it's interesting to see, and it's interesting to cut them out. Yep.
The reason she got defensive right there, because Wayne doesn't have cancer. So I caught her in a lie right there, and she's just trying to buy time. What
Boom.
do you want, Rich? What do you really, and all that defensive, trying to buy time to come up with an answer, but Jeremy saved her and Alien Girl and all that. But I don't give her any credit. It's easy to come out and make up a story and lie, but I guess you could give her credit for doing it. But what is the real reason behind this story?
What's the end goal? What
Is
is
it-
it?
Right, because
Right.
as soon as the 180 days was over, Luz didn't talk to anybody but Dr. J for months. Well, maybe other small, very small shows, but only like a couple. He wasn't going on mainstream media anymore. So there was a real lull in ufology. And then she comes out about 2.5, 3 weeks later to bring this other narrative in that there's aliens in a cave on a guy's property, which is a bold-faced lie, by the way. Anyway, why? Is she, because she, she's ex-FBI too, right? CIA and all that shit. She really had those jobs, but they were entry-level jobs, shit jobs, according to Ryan, because he looked it up and did all the research.
Like the
So-
secretary job.
Yeah. Not that that's a shit job,
No,
but
yeah, but
she
not-
still got a job in the FBI, let's just say that.
just not high profile.
Not high profile.
Right, so I don't know what it matters at that point. I mean, if you're the door holder for the FBI, I mean, yeah, you still work for the FBI, but you hold doors.
Yeah,
Just
but
saying.
when you have that FBI badge, it looks cool as hell, and
Yeah, it
people
does.
respect that. So she's
Yeah, it does.
using her former, job to create a sense of credibility, and she's a total fraud. Everything about her, from beginning to end, is a total fraud when it comes to this story. I think there's something wrong with her, and I don't mean that to be mean. I really think she's got something a little maybe chemically off. I don't know. To me, that's what I see. I see somebody who's maybe a little unstable for whatever reason. I don't know, man. What is the end game, guys? What is it? What is her goal?
She should face the demons. She should face the demons and come onto a show that actually will call her out. When it comes, I'm not. That's no disrespect to Amy, because I know the way the show was going, that Amy was sitting back and she was just being cool and letting everybody else ask the questions. But she needs to go a one-on-one, just one host.
Right.
So it's not too alienated, but where the host will just ask the questions that the people want to know. Where's the end game here? What have you done so far? Give us something. She's not giving us anything. Absolutely. She's just saying, she doesn't need to give us any information. The information's out there, like Ryan said. The information, the guy's already been doxxed. And apparently it's our fault. But I've not put any information out there. But if my question to Anjali was last night was, if you knew if this was a problem in the first place, and you had respect for this guy, did you? And I asked her this, and she totally took the question off into another direction. I said, did you ask him first if this was okay to take people to his cave to see the aliens? And surely, in doing the job that what you do, there's a danger. If you're going to reap disclosure on the world, that you may get taken out.
Right.
When I'm talking about being taken out, I mean properly taken out, killed, dead.
Yeah.
But you're involving this other party, this Wayne, in that. So you must have asked his permission before you spoke out when you did. And I didn't even understand the answer, Rich. I couldn't clarify. If you watch it back, Rich. You cannot even clarify if she's telling me, yes, I got his permission, but now he's changed his mind. She didn't. She totally skirted it off. And then Jeremy asked a question. Then Stephen came in. So I thought, I don't want to be rude and go back to my question. I just want to let everybody else have a little bit of a turn, But I still wanted my question answered. Never got answered. But she skirted it. She just totally took. And it was clever. And I've seen that. I've worked in sales for a long time, and I can see when somebody doesn't like a question and they want to take it into a different direction. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying there, but it does this.
Yeah.
That's what that's what it felt like to me. She just totally she knocked it off track. She said, "You know what? I don't like what you're doing there, but I'm going to show you this. I'm going to explain this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and it did. It worked. What she did worked.
It's technique.
It's
technique.
It brought a question in from alien scientists. Yeah.
The thing is, she's using cancer. You know, that guy Wayne. She said Wayne is dealing with cancer, right?
He may have cancer for all we know.
Apparently he doesn't. But when I asked her,
Ryan's confirmed that.
well, he hasn't confirmed. He said he didn't ask, but apparently it didn't look like it. You can't tell. It depends how far off they have it or whatever. But apparently that's not why. The reason he's calling things off is because too many people have been knocking on his door, wanting to do interviews and walking on their property and go into the business. And, you know, that's unfortunate. And she's creating all of this. And he didn't know all this was going on. And which I find weird because I thought he had these conversations with her at the coffee shop or wherever they would meet. But to use cancer was very smart of her because who in their right mind would ever think somebody would make up a lie as cancer? You know, how dare us question somebody has cancer? Geez, don't ever question that. That's why she used that. She couldn't say he broke his leg because that heals up real quick. You know, it's not painful. Everybody, you know, correlates cancer to being really sick and can't be mobile and all that. So she used an excuse that would be hard for anybody to rebut, you know, and she's getting, well, she didn't get away with it, but she might. But she's not mentioning that Wayne has cancer in any of the tweets after that show, that she's not going to the cave. She's not once bringing it up.
I mean, we will definitely be re-bringing this up on Friday. Michael, are you free on Friday's show on Alien Addict? Are you free to come on 10 p.m.?
10 p.m.? Let me, actually, that's your time, right?
UK time.
Okay. Let me check my schedule.
5 p.m. our time.
Yeah.
Okay.
What day is
Let me
it?
check.
Friday? You're off on Fridays, aren't you? Yeah, he'll be there.
Depends
I'm
on what they
kidding.
gave me. I gotta look. God, I want to be there, though.
But I definitely want to rehash all this because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about. It is crazy how much there is to talk about with this because she's playing a very dangerous game and she's like literally on the edge now. And even Ryan said that there was pictures of Anjali with Wayne. Now you would think that would back up her story. To me, when you invite somebody to your house for a one-off and take them out to an alien cave, would you take a picture of that person and then frame it and put it in your mantelpiece?
That's weird.
You wouldn't. And you would think as a friend, if that friend was going to go revisit your, so Anjali's going to revisit Wayne at some point. She's met him once in a cafe, and he's got a picture of her on the, you know, if Rich, if you get a new girlfriend, you meet her for the first time, you go for a meal. The next minute, you know, she's got pictures of you in a house. You get a little bit. I'd get a little bit freaked out about that.
It sure would help the ego, though.
Why does he have? Why is it? Because the way Ryan explained it on your show is almost like the pictures were in the house.
I know. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to it all again, but she is exposed, I think, and it's over. She's never ever gonna go to that cave with researchers. I'll say it again.
It's really disappointing. It's unfortunate that this sort of thing happens. I was looking to reach out to her to have her on the show, but after what I've seen so far, I'm going to watch the rest of it tonight. There's a good chance that I probably won't do that.
No, do it. Even more so.
Ollie, how long?
Well, I mean, I saw how defensive. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, how long was she on for? An hour?
Quite some time, yeah.
2 hours?
Probably about. So it was originally my interview, and then all of a sudden, like alien scientist Stephen was on, Anjali was on. I'm like, have I done this? Have I got this power? I knew I was God, you know. She's on
She-
for a long time.
She was on for an hour and 45 minutes. So she came on around the 2-hour mark, just before. I just looked. Yeah.
Amy needs to do a re-edit. She needs to separate that part of the show and put it on as another show. Amy, if you're watching this show, do
That's
that.
what I'm
Yep.
doing. Yeah, I'm doing that for GUFON.
I would agree.
With my
I would
show,
absolutely
though,
agree
but
with
not
that.
With her. She said I could use
Oh, sure.
whatever I want,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I'll
she's
mix them
cool.
up.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And listen, I know that we are getting into another conversation here, which is another show entirely. I do have to let you go for the moment. But hey, listen, it was awesome talking to both of you. Rich, thanks for joining us on a whim
Thanks
here.
for
I know
asking.
that, I don't know why I hadn't thought of it sooner, probably because I was trying to put things together here and it was an earlier show. And next thing you know, thank God you texted me because you belonged here tonight. And, it was
felt
calling
bad.
your name.
I know.
Ollie, thank you so much, bro, for being on the show again.
Thank
It's
you.
been far too long since I had you back, and I'm going to have the both of you back very shortly because people are asking for a part 2, which, again, I haven't even really touched some of the subjects that I had, or topics, I should say, in the way of the paranormal near-death experiences that we could make a whole other show about
My
it.
fault.
So, you know what? It usually is, Rich, but we forgive you for that most of the time, and, we just continue on with our lives. That being said, no, I'm just kidding. That being said, Tina Mobley, listen, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Guys, I want to let you know very quickly that Tina does some fantastic work with jewelry. In fact, I know you can't see it because the microphone is in the way, but I am wearing a piece of what she's...
Oh, you got that.
Yes, it has a
That's
nice... I know it's
awesome.
very difficult to see. The lighting is tough, but
Just
essentially...
put StreamYard on you only.
Yeah, let me see.
Put-
Here, hold on. I'll
Put the
take you guys off for a
camera on
second.
you.
Let's do this. All right, check this out. This is inlaid with amethyst, organite. It looks like there's some gold flakes in there, and of course in the back there is a nice copper spiral, and Tina has gifted this to me. You can find a link down below, folks. Go check out her shop and what she's done. I have to be honest, since I put this on, I've felt lighter, and I know she's put a lot of love, energy, and positivity into this particular piece, and I have to say, I feel it when I wear it, and I've been wearing it ever since she gave it to me about 3 weeks ago, give or take. So definitely, thank you so much, Tina, for the $5 super chat. Go ahead, Rich.
And also, Tina and I do the giveaway, and the name of her shop is Gypsy Jewelers, and you can find the
Thank you.
link in the description of any show I have within the last 5 months or so. So go there if you want to check out her goods. The link's in the description at the bottom.
Absolutely, guys, definitely. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna take you off for a moment, and I'll say my proper goodbyes off screen. But if you guys are looking for GUFON, you can find them right over at GUFON here on YouTube. You can also find him on Third Phase UFO Report. He does some fantastic work over there on the shows that he puts together. Ollie, you can find him on Alien Addict, and occasionally you can find him on the Third Phase of Moon panel, giving his expressed interest and insight, of course, that we are all very grateful for. And these guys are some of the best guys that I've ever known, and you guys already know that. You can just tell how we interact and the fact that we work together so very closely. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming on the show today. You made it what it is.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to pop out of here. We just about rounded out 2 hours, and I have to say it was the easiest and fastest 2 hours that I've ever been on a show for. I mean, God, really, I just feel like we just started and really hadn't touched enough in way of topics, but hey, that's why there's always next time. I'm not going to make it a long outro here, but I do want to thank all of my moderators and super chatters for all of your fantastic donations, and of course, the support that you give in way of financial donations or your time being here and helping me out with the channel. I really appreciate all of you so very, very much. Thank you so much. We will be back next time, and you're looking at, let's see, today's Wednesday. I want to at least try to bang out something out for the rest of the week here. If not, then you can expect a heavy interview schedule next week, and I will certainly let all of you know when that's coming to pass. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to bring up the outro for something new and different here. And, once again, guys, I can't thank you enough for your participation, your attention, and, you know, as Rich says, just giving our shows a chance. Even if you're here for just a short time, you at least get a little something from what we're doing. Maybe you'll stay longer next time. We're always covering different topics. We have different people on, but there's a core energy that runs throughout all of our channels, which is very familiar, very discernible. So I hope you guys enjoy what comes next as you have been enjoying what's already been. Till next time, stay inquisitive, stay objective, and approach everything with a critical mind. We'll see you guys next time. Ciao.